everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is now January 6th of the new year, and I'm hoping everybody had a happy new year. I hope everyone had a great time with family, had a great time at parties if y'all went to parties or anything like that, and I hope y'all stayed safe while also having fun at the same time. But also coming with the new year comes new movies as well, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Some of the most anticipated movies of 2025. We're all going to get a lot of movies like we do every year, but of course, there's always those few. Those big movies that we see in the, trailers as we are watching for the movie to come on, that we are expecting more than other movies, more than anything. And that's what I'm here to talk about. What I feel, in my opinion, are my 10 most anticipated movies to come out this year, in the year 2025. Now, just to say that, before I get into it, I am not listing these in any way. So, just to say that one movie I talk about first means that I'm less anticipated than the one that I talk about last means that's my most anticipated. No, I am equally anticipated for all these movies that are coming out. So, there's no need for me to say, that this is a countdown, this one's number 10, 9, 8, or anything like that. I'm just talking about the 10 most anticipated movies that I'm looking forward to come out on my list and have really struck my interest more than anything else. So let's get right to it. Starting off, let's talk about, this big zombie apocalypse film that is returning, and that is 28 Years Later. Yes, that's right. 28 Years Later is finally coming out, everybody, after almost over a decade of waiting, because 28 Weeks Later, which is its predecessor, came out back in 2007. So, it's been a while, and we've been waiting for this movie for a while because it's been in talk ever since that movie was released. But the big talk here about this movie is that Danny Boyle and Alex Garland are finally coming back to this franchise. Alex Garland was the original writer, and Danny Boyle was the original director of 28 Days Later that starred Cillian Murphy. So, that's big talk right there. Not saying that 28 Weeks Later was a bad movie, since neither of them were involved in that movie, because that one was just as good as 28 Days Later. I'm just saying that it's nice, when you get the original writer and director that created it to be back in to write this new film. So, that's a big thing right there. And also another big thing, too, is that, there's supposed to be 2 parts to this movie. So this is only the first part. So, if it's, just as good as those other 2 movies, I can't wait for the second part, too, as well, which probably won't be coming out till 2026. Next on my list of anticipated films is actually a movie I just recently discovered not too long ago while taking my break from the new year, and also just recently watched the teaser not too long ago, even though this teaser has actually been out since July of last year, and that's this new movie coming out called F1 starring Brad Pitt. So, it's, of course, the name suggests F1. It's about Formula racing, so it'll be that kind of a movie, a racing movie. And my thing with racing movies, they're here and there with me. My favorite one, in my opinion, still is Ford versus Ferrari, but Rush was also an indie racing film, and it's still, so that's the one we're going to kind of measure up to, but that one was also a biopic as well. But what really struck my attention with this movie is that both the writer and the director of this film, Joseph Kosinski and Aaron Kruger, which were both the writer and director of Top Gun Maverick. And Top Gun Maverick actually kind of felt like, you were there, that feeling of being in, F-18 cockpit, while they're, doing their missions or while they're training. So maybe with this movie, we'll get that same feeling of being behind a Formula race car. So, I don't know. It could be a bomb, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait till it comes out in the summer. Next on my list is actually a movie that will be coming out this month. So, moving now much more closer to, its release date. And that is a new movie called Presence, which will be starring Lucy Liu, and it's directed by Steven Soderbergh. When I first heard about this movie, I thought it was just going to be another horror movie from Neon. But actually, as I dug more into it, it actually strikes me as very interesting because from what I've heard, the production of this film will be mostly in first-person perspective because it's telling the story from the point of view of the ghost. So the ghost is the main character here, and of course that point of view of a ghost is very interesting to me because if you recall, the movie In a Violent Nature, which came out last year, was shot from the entire point of view of the slasher, the one who was killing people. And that always struck me as interesting. Like, what does the slasher go through when he's hunting down, trying to kill these people? But everything was like majority third-person perspective, And of course, we saw him kill the people, but there was no backtrack, no background music, no buildup of any kind, to sense that a kill was coming or anything of that nature. It was just the noise around us and, him hiking through the woods. That was pretty much it. So I'm wondering if Presence is going to have that same feel. Is it going to be a quiet house constantly? No score whatsoever. Because if it does, that really will be interesting, in my opinion. But, of course, you never know. It could possibly just be another bomb. But we won't know until, I think, 2 weeks from now, I believe. Up next on my list, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, or Dead Reckoning Part 2. I don't know, really, what you want to consider this. You have to consider this as Part 2, but they're calling it Final Reckoning and not Dead Reckoning. But the point is here, I've had a strange history with, Mission Impossible. I thought Fallout was going to be the end of it. So when Dead Reckoning Part 1 came out, it was kind of surprising to me. And that Part 1 thing, it made me think like, oh, is this finally going to be the end? But Mission Impossible always seems to be one of those movies that surprises you because I guess Tom Cruise just loves playing this character. He will play it until, he is dead or bedridden. I don't know which one would happen first. But, essentially, I feel like this one will be the end because of the way the teaser trailer has played it out and the way Dead Reckoning Part 1 played on it. But the thing is that you never know when it comes to this series. Up next here is the movie that should be sparking DC resurgence, and that is, Superman, which will be coming out in, I believe, July. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember. But this has been a big talked about topic ever since people found out that James Gunn was going to be the one directing it. Because, everyone heard that and everyone was like, yay! Because of James Gunn's big success with Marvel in directing the Guardians of the Galaxy. But honestly, in my opinion, what has always struck me as a good Superman movie isn't even the person playing Superman. It's the one who plays Lex Luthor, which has always struck me as whether this Superman movie would be good or not. And honestly, the one with Jesse Eisenberg, no, that one wasn't good. But the one with Kevin Spacey and Gene Hackman was actually really good too. And this time we've got Nicholas Hoult playing Lex Luthor. So, I think he can do a good job. Really just depends on what he brings to the table. So, there's always that. But, when it comes to Superman, who's playing him, he looks like Christopher Reeve's descendant. But, I thought Henry Cavill was great, too, as well. But, of course, they're still trying to get talking to him about playing James Bond. But, overall, I think this one is kind of a toss-up, up in the air, based on what direction they go in and how the actors play their roles. Next on my list is actually a movie that I just recently discovered yesterday. There hasn't been a poster to it or even a teaser trailer yet, but there has been a first look, and that is Guillermo del Toro's version of Frankenstein, which will be released on Netflix supposedly this year. Frankenstein is one of my favorite novels, but there have been a lot of versions of it where they didn't really follow the story correctly. Still, my favorite version when it comes to story-wise is actually the Hallmark version that starred Luke Goss. But even so, that one's like a very underrated version. But when it comes to the book, that one is accurate, the most accurate representation when it comes to, from book to movie. But I'm hopefully Guillermo del Toro will follow that same aspect and follow the book more than the actual thing about the monster and everything like that. But one thing I can guarantee, if he follows his usual formula, there's going to be a lot of practical effects and very little CGI. Up next on my list could be possibly, or actually arguably, one of the most talked about films of 2025 and could possibly be the best film of 2025. I know that seems like a bit much to say this early in the year, but when you're making a movie about Michael Jackson, you cannot be not anticipated by a movie about the King of Pop. But the thing is, what really has me worried here is because there are a lot of people out there, I don't believe, who seem to understand how famous Michael Jackson literally was. And to kind of try and fit this into a musical biopic, it's really got me having some worries there. Jafar Jackson, one of Michael's nephews, will be playing him And honestly, the director of choice has kind of got me worried too. They chose Antoine Fuqua to be, the director. Now, don't get me wrong. He's made a lot of great films, and I mean a lot of great films, but a lot of his best films have revolved around, the military action aspect. So I don't know how he is going to fit into making, a musical biopic about the King of Pop, which most likely, based on how grand of a scale this movie possibly will be, it's most likely going to probably be 2.5, maybe possibly even a 3-hour film. Up next on my list is the newest Avatar movie, Avatar Fire and Ash. Yep, James Cameron is bringing us another Avatar movie. And the weird thing is, we're just now passing the halfway point because there's supposedly supposed to be 2 more films after this Avatar franchise. The Avatar franchise has been, on and off for me. Yes, the motion capture and the performance always looks incredible. There's no denying that, but the stories have always been kind of lackluster. They follow the same formula, these first 2 films, which begs me to wonder how long this formula is going to work for James Cameron. Because the first one was about, they're destroying the trees to steal some rocks that are buried beneath us, got to stand up to the humans. And then in the second one, they were killing the whales, to get this sort of elixir from their, jaws to have people live forever or stay young forever. One of the two, I don't know. So what's this one going to be about? Volcanic obsidian that's supposedly indestructible or is supposed to make you super strong. Essentially what I'm saying is, if this movie follows the same formula, I don't know how long the Avatar series is going to last, because James Cameron has a lot to tell us, because he's been working on the Avatar franchise ever since he was like 18. So I know he's got like a whole universe out there to show us. But I mean, I don't know how long the story is going to last, but the CGI will always look incredible. Essentially, though, this movie will still get a lot of attention, essentially because it's probably being directed by James Cameron, because he's just that notable of a director. So, I mean, if James Cameron's directing it, people will see it. Up next on my list is the next part for the musical that came out in 2024, and that is Wicked Part 2, or Wicked for Good, whichever title they're going with. Now, originally, like I said, in 2024, I thought the first Wicked movie was going to bomb, but it actually wasn't that bad. It actually was a really good movie. You put the musical part aside, I mean, the story is actually a very interesting story, in my opinion. I mean, musicals really aren't my thing either, but the fact that, that after how Wicked Part 1 ended, it's got me intrigued about where they're going to take Part 2. I can honestly say I am excited to see Part 2. Up next is a movie that was supposed to be released June of last year, but now will be released June of this year, and that's from the world of John Wick, The Ballerina. I mean, not much I know about this movie, of course, other than it's about the world of John Wick, and that world is like, insane. So, I mean, to know that we're getting a spin-off here of John Wick, I mean, it's really already struck my interest. I know Continental came out a little while on Peacock. It was okay, but I'm hoping that this movie does a little bit better, and also knowing that they're bringing Keanu Reeves back to play the character. It's essentially supposed to take place in between Parabellum and Chapter 4. And also knowing that Shay Hanton, who was a writer for both of those films, he is the one writing this screenplay. I'm hoping, that this movie will be good. Because, I mean, knowing about the John Wick world that was created, of course, or that he helped build, I mean, it's interesting to know, like, what is it like there? Because, so, I mean, give me more of these, flicks, about probably one of the best action heroes we've seen in the movie industry. I'm all down to see more about the John Wick universe. All right, well, those are my 10 most anticipated films of the year 2025. If you guys have a film that you are anxious about, or there's a film that I didn't mention that you guys are really looking forward to, please comment those down below, because I really like to know what film you are looking forward to this year. And also, I am looking forward as well to another great year with you guys of sharing my love of movies, and of course, finding out if these movies are good and bad together. So as always, look forward to seeing you guys again, so stay epic!